Hello and welcome to Mystic Visions. This is a daily pick a card reading for December 29th, which is Tuesday. And the purpose of this reading is to give you a brief piece of advice or to help guide your overall focus for the day. Now, if you are looking for a longer, more detailed reading, please check out my channel. If you are new to pick a card readings, the way this works is that you will choose from one of the three piles here, and then you'll click on the timestamp in the description to skip ahead to the reading you've selected. Now, if you feel compelled to choose more than one card, that's totally fine. Please follow your intuition here. There's likely to be some good advice in each reading, even if one pile is more accurate than the others. So I have also added 3 crystals to aid in your selection. And today we have red calcite, this is angel aura quartz, and this is sodalite. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds of silence so you can meditate on your choice if you wish. And once you have your choices in mind, go ahead and find the timestamp for your choice in the description below. So let's go ahead and start the 30 seconds now. Okay, so if you have not already done so, please make your choice and then scroll down in the description to find the timestamp for your particular reading. So let's go ahead and begin now with pile 1. If you chose the red calcite, this is your reading. So you have this 10 of Cups, the Hermit, and the Knight of Cups. So your situation being the 10 of Cups in the reverse here. 10 of Cups is a ultimate sense of emotional satisfaction. There is generally a lot of fulfillment, family, completion of goals, and that kind of thing, but in a way that's not so focused on like the destination itself, but in a way that focuses on you fulfilling your dreams or getting exactly what you want. Now, in the reverse, there is sometimes a resistance to this idea. So it might be that you have been inflicting a little bit of self-punishment on yourself, or feeling unworthy, or feeling like you don't deserve the best, or just really settling for less than you deserve. This can be letting others take advantage of you, and oftentimes this is something that happens early on where you're treated poorly by somebody who should have shown you some more respect and some better treatment, and so you start to feel as though you have a problem and not the people who've been treating you wrong. So there is this there's this kind of cynicism that comes with this, where you're not feeling as though you really deserve this. But on the other hand, the bright side is there is the potential to turn the situation around when you recognize that you do deserve the best, you do deserve better. And it's kind of close, because this isn't like, this is the 10 of Cups in the reverse. The 10 of Cups is the completion of this cycle. So there is just one little step here that needs to occur, where you need to find your inner self-confidence and your inner self-worth, and reach out for it and take it, instead of feeling like you don't deserve it. What you have challenging you is this Hermit in the reverse. And this indicates a feeling of like loneliness. And if you're not physically alone, you can still feel alone, even in a crowded room, by not having anyone truly understand you or what you're about. And so this general feeling here is kind of like that. You're not feeling like there's anyone immediately around who really gets you, or just in a more general sense, you're feeling alone, like you're not around people who you want to be around. Now, the advice card for you here is the Knight of Cups. And the Knight of Cups is he's the romantic of the deck. He's the person who is very, very go with the flow and in touch with his emotions, and he feels the situation out, and he doesn't get too in his head about things. So the way this kind of relates to your situation here is thoughts can be your enemy in this situation if you are thinking that the situation is supposed to unfold in a particular kind of way, or you're thinking that you should be treated a particular kind of way. That can be your enemy because you may have like wrong systems in place from, like I said, from some bad experiences in the past, which have led you to accept less than you're actually worth. So instead of that, the advice here is to kind of go with your gut, go with your feeling, focus on how a situation makes you feel instead of just what you think about what's going on. And also, this is a very romantic character who is, he pursues relationships. He's not just sitting by the sideline and like letting things happen. He's actually trying to have a good time. He's going out there and putting himself out there. So this is a message for you as well to, let go a little bit and kind of go with the flow and see what other people are doing and kind of join the crowd a little bit. And that's a way for you to get over this hermit energy a little bit too. So don't get too hung up on the people around you needing to be a particular kind of way or something. If you go out there and you try to just connect with people, you'll find that there's a lot more out there than you realize. And so if they're not coming to you, you go to them and you do what's necessary to achieve your emotional fulfillment and to be happy, to realize that you deserve it. Okay, so that's about it for card number 1. Okay, so now let's move on to card number 2 with the Angel Aura Quartz. It's nice and pearly, shimmery. I love it. It's pretty. Okay, so if you chose card number 2, you have the 9 of Wands in the reverse, the 2 of Swords in the reverse, and the Fool. Okay, so this can be kind of, this is actually a little bit similar to the last one that we had. That the 9 of Wands is a guarded energy of kind of not wanting to branch out or something like that. But in the reverse, there's a little bit more of a tone of bravery to it, of not letting past trials and tribulations sort of beat you down, but overcoming them and moving on and becoming stronger because of them. So there is that sense in you where you are ready to sort of learn from your mistakes and move on and get to a brighter future for yourself. But what's crossing or challenging you here is this 2 of Swords in the reverse. So this can mean, 2 of Swords is about feeling a little bit like you don't know which direction to go. It's a little bit of a problem sometimes as hesitation of not knowing, whether to take the left fork or the right fork. And, in the reverse here, there is probably an idea in your mind where you're kind of wanting to take one way or the other. You have an idea of the direction that you want to go. But it can be a little bit of a trap here, or it can be something that your ideas are not going to work out exactly the way that you think they will in this situation, particularly on this day. So even though you're feeling a little bit froggy and like you're going to do something in some particular way, your advice here is the Fool card, which is saying to kind of, well, it's saying to throw caution to the wind and to essentially trust that things are going to work out no matter what. So the way that I would approach that situation, because there is a tendency here for things not to work out in a positive way. So the way that I would handle that situation is Make your decisions on a paradigm of, if it doesn't work out, I'm still okay. So don't make any decisions here where it's like you're staking a great amount of your finances on some chance thing. Don't go buy, half of your paycheck's worth of lottery tickets or anything like that. But on the other hand, if you have all your bills paid and you recognize, well, hey, I could, I have a little extra here that I could buy a lottery ticket with. It's a good time for that kind of an action where you can just sort of, look at some aspect of your life as a little bit more disposable than normal, and throw caution to the wind and kind of go for it. Have some faith that something good here can work out. And that's kind of what's going to serve you well on this day. Now, keep in mind, this is daily reading. This is not general advice for you to carry with you all year long. This is a daily reading. So the message here is, take a little bit of a chance, take a leap of faith, and see where it takes you. And it may not take off, it may not be the greatest thing ever, but it's a good day for you to just sort of feel that type of an energy, and look for some specific way to have a little bit more faith than normal that things might work out. Okay, so that's about it for that one. Short and sweet, kind of a hopeful card there, a chance taking. So let's begin with the card number 3. If you chose Sodalite, this is a reading for you. All right, so you have the 5 of Wands, the Death card, and the World. Some big energy here. So immediately I'm noticing, the current situation, it may seem a little bit mundane with the or just average thing going on, run of the mill. But what's actually going on here is a much bigger deal than it seems. There is a transformation that's going on within you, a huge transformation, because you have the Death card and the World, which are, some of the biggest transitions in the deck. So the mundane situation that this comes about in is the 5 of Wands, which has a sort of an energy of like a struggle, sometimes of ideas or will. This kind of reminds me of like a group of coworkers that are kind of trying to look better than each other. They're trying to beat each other to the top instead of being totally collaborative. So there's an idea of like, well, no, I know better. No, I know better. There's this kind of conflict of ideas that happens here. And it's very much just based on where everybody's trying to get somewhere, and you're stepping on each other's toes a little bit in the process. Now, what is crossing you here is this Death card. That doesn't necessarily, it can, but it doesn't necessarily mean that a physical death is crossing you or affecting you, or that you've experienced it recently. More likely, it is simply a transitionary phase. There is a sort of an end to the old way. The way things were is gone, and now there's sort of a new way that has to come about, and that's a rebirth, really. In a more literal sense, this may mean that you've experienced a death recently or something like that is weighing heavy on you. But in one way or another, and it could also be that your thoughts about death are sort of crossing you. So this can indicate, things like anxiety or fear about the future, fear about what's going to happen with your health, that kind of thing. But so there are several different applications. Remember, this daily reading is for many different people, so it's going to be applicable in many different ways. So, but in one way or another, there is a transition here that will have to occur, that you are sort of being crossed by. You're resistant to that, of moving on to a new way of life and that kind of thing. Now, your advice card here is the World. And so the World and the Death card I find to be very, very similar. And so really the difference is the perspective of like how you look at it. Because at the Death card, it's really and it's, it's a little past the halfway point of that major arcana. But with the death card, there's this energy of like not wanting the change to come, resisting it, even though it's inevitable and even though it changes everything. The world is more of like a completion of a cycle. So this feels victorious. This feels like you've made an accomplishment. The world can just as easily represent like death as the death card, but the difference is it's seen from a more of a positive point of view of that you're moving on to a new phase in life or a new existence, right? So there is kind of a message here of however you're looking at things has a tendency to determine how they are, and I know that doesn't seem right. It seems like, well, things are what they are. It just happens, and sometimes good things happen and sometimes bad things happen, and that's true to a degree, but you always have a control or a power over how you choose to perceive things. You can always focus on either the positive aspects or the negative aspects of a thing. You can see anything, like even stress, you can see it as breaking you down, or you can see it as a challenge that gives you the opportunity to be stronger. So that's the major message here is it's really your decision that makes you shift from seeing the negative side of things to seeing the positive side of things. And it's really nothing else than that. It's simply a decision that you're going to see things in a better light. And I just gave this piece of advice to somebody else a few minutes ago, actually. It's, whenever you're considering an idea or a belief or something like that, you're thinking about, will I believe this or am I not going to believe this? Somebody says something on Facebook and you're thinking, I wonder if that's true or not. Well, maybe stop and ask yourself, if it's true, where does that lead me? Where does that take me? Does that take me into a place where I am less happy in the world? Or does it take me to a place where I feel brighter, more hopeful, and better? Now, don't be, it's easy to think, well, that's kind of naive. I just want to know what the truth is. Well, yeah, and I understand that, but the problem is that you can never really know what the truth is, right? Even if you know what the facts are, you don't really know what the truth is, because a piece of knowledge, something in the mind, is a reflection of reality, but it's never reality itself. So it's like there's always a distance between the map and the territory, right? The map is never identical to the territory, and just like you can't eat the menu. If you try to eat the menu, you'll end up with probably a visit to the hospital, right? But if you recognize that the menu or the thought itself points to something beyond itself, then you're doing yourself a favor here. So use that little morsel of knowledge to recognize that you never actually know how it is. Your judgment on a situation is never perfect. So you can always take a step back and say, well, there is always this unknown element that I'm not aware of, and that could make this situation better than I think it is. And the reason to do that is because if you recognize that it is in your choice, ultimately, how you're going to take the events that go on around you, you can feel any way you really want to feel. And don't think that you're just being a sheep or being naive. On the contrary, you're not being led by others, you're leading yourself. And that's the only way that I've found in this world to not be a sheep. Because otherwise, you're simply going down the path that others have laid down for you. And it takes real balls to be able to say, you know what, I don't care what everybody is saying about this. I'm going to feel about it the way that I choose. And I'm going to choose to feel, happy about it. And if you want to feel negative about it, well, that's your prerogative too. But most people, I think, recognize the power of this in a more positive and happy direction, right? So that's about it for that card. That's a pretty interesting and deep one there. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me in the comments. And I would also be very happy to draw additional cards for anybody who is a subscriber to the channel. So let me know what you thought, and I will see you guys tomorrow for the next daily reading.